the Niners passing game is behind pace right now in terms of just what it takes in the NFL. At this moment in time, if we take the top 10 passers in the league by touchdown, and there's actually like 13 of them because a few guys are tied for 10th place, when it's all said and done, your top 10, probably like the guy that's 5th, 6th, 7th, that guy, maybe 9, 10, that guy's probably going to have around 32 or 34 touchdowns this year in a 17-game season. And the Niners are not on that pace. They are not on that pace right now, which is bad because they can't run the football. And they're about to play a team that you might have to play like that this week in order to beat Seattle.
Yeah, I think the Niners have a flaw going right now because they are solid, right? You watch all the teams, like they are not, I wouldn't put them in the upper echelon like the way the Rams are playing, and they're definitely not on the lower echelon, but they're probably like higher end middle.
We're glad you're watching this video. Like it and subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Also, subscribe to our podcast below in the description.
We're sponsored by Tito's Handmade Vodka.
Yes, we are. #1 vodka in America.
Savor responsibly.
But their fatal flaw when they play some of these teams, like Seattle, the way Seattle got beat last week was Cousins threw for 300-plus yards and 3 touchdowns and really sliced and diced them. And I'm watching Jimmy Garoppolo going, does he have a 3-touchdown game in him against a good team? And I don't think he does. And their running game, the Vikings and Titans combined the last 2 weeks are about 300 yards rushing, 2 guys. Madison had 112. Obviously, Derrick Henry had 180. Plus the other, 2 weeks ago in that win. The Niners aren't running for 150 yards right now with the crew of guys they're running out on anybody. And that year when Jimmy Garoppolo, when they made the Super Bowl, they were one of the best defensive teams. And they had a couple offensive moments, passing-wise, in different games. But for the most part, it was a running game. Well, their running game, I don't have much faith in it working right now with some random guys. I mean, Trey Sermon doesn't even look comfortable in the offense yet. And Elijah Mitchell, who knows if he's able to play this week, clearly they were not comfortable playing the random guys, right? The dude they claimed off a practice squad, or even Kerryon Johnson, who was on their practice squad. So that to me is part of it. It's like Kyle, and maybe just another week in the scheme, they feel a little bit better. It happens a lot in college where, because I was thinking about Matt Rule the other day, how different it's got to be when he loses a guy, right, which I'm sure happened to him at Baylor. He just has another guy on the team that he's seen a lot of reps with, and you just kind of you bring him up that week in practice, and then he plays. Where in pro football, you have to sign a guy off the street, and then you're like, I don't really like what I see, so you just try to circumvent that position, which can be very difficult for the Niners when running football is their go-to thing. But Seattle's fatal flaw is not stopping the pass, and I don't feel great about Jimmy Garoppolo right now is, a bottom 12 quarterback. He's in the 20s based on of all the football I've watched right now. He's somewhere 20 to 32. Closer to probably 20, but that is not the type guy that's beating Seattle, right? Now, if you have a top, if Kyler Murray was playing them or Matt Stafford, I'd be like, well, Seattle's in trouble. Right? We just saw Cousins light him up. Do you feel good about Jimmy just lighting anyone up right now in the passing game? Because I don't.
No. Well, also, it's not just that Cousins lit him up. It's that Cousins lit him up without making mistakes. And, I think one thing we know with Garoppolo, if there's enough volume, he'll make some great plays, but he will also make mistakes.
Probably one of the better games he's ever played. Did you tell me that?
I didn't tell you that by the numbers, but I could tell you that I watched the game today, and then I texted you and said, have you seen Kirk Cousins' line from the Seahawks game? And you said, yeah, let's check his line for the season. Have you seen that? And then we both said, we think he's a top 10 quarterback. We'll get to him later, though. But yeah, he was 30. What did I write it? 30. I think
he was 30, 38,
23, 3 touchdowns, no picks.
Does Jimmy have that game in the bag against anyone besides the Jets or the Jags right now?
Well, yeah, I mean, look, I think he does have that game in the bag sometimes. But what it takes for that game to happen is you got to get lucky. There's going to be a couple balls that could be picked. They can't be picked. You're going to fumble a ball. You got to fall on it, right? So to me, it's not.
We'd have to. Someone will correct me. I would think there's a chance he's never completed 30 balls in a game. Maybe it's happened a handful of times. I don't want to get you
regardless of the number. My point is just I think it's possible that he has it. I think Kirk Cousins has that thing. Kirk Cousins could play that game 3 out of 4 weeks. Jimmy might play that game once a year. Is my point. So, but we'll get to Kirk. This is about Trey Lance. Does this mean you need to play Trey Lance more this week against the Seahawks? because I think there's an argument to make that he just gives you something that you're going to need potentially. He potentially gives you something you're going to need. I think you could also make the argument, John, that this is a dangerous game. Seattle makes mistakes. The fewer mistakes like Minnesota just didn't make really any mistakes last week. They played a really clean game on offense.
Yeah.
And that you are taking a chance, right, if you go with Trey, because he could also make you the mistake that really hurts in this game. But at this point, do you have to try it, given what he could bring from a dynamic standpoint? And, you made a really good point Sunday night. If you're struggling to run the football, maybe Trey Lance can help you do that.
Well, I was listening to Kyle, I think it was Sunday night. Maybe they were asking him, like, why, if your running game is limited, why don't you use him more? And he's like, well, he's not a running back, right? It's not like we can hand him the ball. So if I'm just running him all the time, it becomes pretty clear. To me, though, where they haven't used yet, really, I guess they did the one time, and I mean, one of his 2 plays was a pass. You need him to give you explosive plays. So a play action deep bomb. Like when I'm watching Cousins, their offense is actually very similar to what the Niners do, not in yards and execution and points, but just in terms of the plays he runs. They do a lot of the boots and the waggles. Like he is tailor-made for this offense. He pushes the ball deep. Now, he has Justin Jefferson, who's on pace for a fucking incredible season, and Third and Thielen, who is just a baller. But the Niners have Ayuk and Debo. I mean, Debo's a stud, and George. Like, you can push the ball. And even Kyle said, and a lot of people DM me that we were critical of Jimmy on the pick. And even Kyle was like, it was just incredible play by the backside corner come across. But Kittle wouldn't even have touched the ball. Like, it wasn't a good throw. So, yeah, it's a great play, but George...
You don't think Kittle would have touched the ball in that play? You thought it was overthrown?
Well, yeah, he put his hands out, and the guy was way in front of him and caught the ball.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty close. Because I also think he couldn't have underthrown it. And it would have, if he had underthrown it, the defender was... I think, to me, the flaw with
I thought it was a little Emmanuel Sanders Super Bowl-ish.
See, I didn't think it was that far, but maybe I'm wrong. I thought the mistake on that play... I thought the problem, not the mistake on that play, was that, ideally, it's Ayuk that's running that route. That's running down the field like that.
Okay, yeah.
But whatever.
But I think one of the advantages, and I don't blame them for doing this, they go, our tight end is going to be one of the faster tight ends in the league, and we might get a mismatch down the field, and he's able to run by him, and that's true. I have no problem running that play again. Use Trey.
Get in our DraftKings game. The link is below. Sign up at DraftKings with the code HAM.
Also, if you want to gamble, use mybookie.ag, promo code HAM1. Thursday Night Football, Burrow, Trevor Lawrence, mybookie.ag, promo code HAM1. Bring Trey in for some big plays. You need to get a spark. You need to get some explosive plays in the passing game because it doesn't exist right now. The explosive plays they had in the passing game last week were George throwing a guy off him, stiff-arming a guy, running through the middle, Debo making catches out of his ass, which I'm not trying to... That's incredible what he was pulling off. Well, I'm just watching... It's not even just the Minnesota game against Seattle. You just watch a lot of games like the Cowboy game last night. Guys just... Why can't the Niners receivers... He's got to scheme these guys open and for them to push the ball down the field. They have to do that if they're going to compete in the modern-day NFL. This is not 1996. This is not 2015. I feel like the game's pretty consistent. You have to make big plays. And the Niners in 2019, a lot of their big plays came in the run game, and I don't think you can depend on that right now. There were points in time in that game where Juice, it felt like Kyle was like, and I don't blame him, but he's like, I don't trust anybody right now except Juice to be my running back.
Didn't he get the first carry of the game?
Yeah, and I mean, that's like, I love Juice, but he can't, that's not, I have more faith on him, like put him at slot receiver than doing that.
I think the question I have for their run game is, was it just not enough time for his running backs this week, or does he not like any of those guys enough to put him in the game? Because
one guy he drafted in the 3rd round.
Right? What are you talking about?
I mean, one of the guys that he's on the fence with right now in terms of playing time would be Trey Sermon was a 3rd round pick.
But I mean, he was the guy that played in that game. I'm saying the other guys, because we keep talking about, you can plug anybody into this offense. Well, if that's the case, he didn't just plug anybody in on Sunday night. Like, he doesn't feel that way. Is it because he hasn't had enough time with those other guys, or are they just not good enough to be on the field?
Wouldn't you say his history would say that there's a level, even as an NFL coach, where transactions happen a lot. He's got to be pretty comfortable with you to depend on you on offense. Defense, they run through guys. It's less of his baby. I think with the offense, his baby, he's got to feel pretty good about you. Like, he does not throw random guys out there very often.
Don't you think protection is a big part of that too? Like specifically quarterback protection.
But if you're just bring the guy in for an actual run,
yeah,
why wouldn't you give the guy a rep?
I don't know, but other than he doesn't trust it.
Jimmy had one game in 2019 where he threw over 30. He had over 30 completions. For the most part, it was all. No, it was a win against the Cardinals, 4 touchdowns. So I mean, it was. Now he beat up on the Cardinals that year. He threw 8 touchdowns in 2 games against them.
Well, and he threw 27 touchdowns that year, which in a 17-game season is 28.5, which is still, even in that really good year, is behind what a top 10 quarterback will do this year. That year, that was good for 6th in the league. This year, it's not going to be.
No. What's he on pace for right now?
28.5.
But he's on pace right now for like 23, right? With 4 touchdowns. Wasn't that the math we did before the game?
4 touchdowns through. Oh, yeah, he's on pace for 23. Yes. Yeah, I'm sorry. What I was saying is 27 this year is 28.5, but his pace is 23, which is not good enough, especially with this defense and with this run game.
I just think unless you have the best run game in the league, which like the Titans, right? And it's not even that run game. It's like they have the best running back. So it's like even I think Henry had a $120 against the Colts. They just have a great running back. The Niners do it by committee, but their committee is just injured. It's not working right now. You have to be able to pass the ball. You have to be able to pass the ball. And when you can do both, you can dominate as an offense. Like last night watching the Cowboys, their greatest advantage is we know their passing game's awesome. When they're running the ball, they're going to score 40 points. Because of what the hell do you do? They have multiple running backs. Zeke looked good, and then they're throwing it all over the place with all these guys. Like it's, and they just represent a lot of different offenses, right? I mean, the Rams are a good example. They just run the ball a little, but their passing game's so elite. The Cardinals, they use random running backs, but their quarterback can operate as a runner pretty easily, and then their passing game's awesome. So you watch that Seattle game, it's like at any moment, they can score a touchdown. Like that's the one thing, even though they've been off, they were more off last week, I thought, than the Titans game. The Titans game, they just kind of hit the skids in the fourth quarter, and the Titans had this incredible comeback. Last game, they really didn't play well in the second half because it was 17-7, and then they never scored again. They lose 30-7. They lose 30-17. And they just looked out of whack. But anytime he drops back and throws it to 14 or 16, you feel like that guy could score a touchdown on that play. Like the Niners do not have that tonight, right now. And the problem when you play them, like that to me is why you have to institute and just have a couple deep bombs. I mean, you got to give them to Jimmy too, but I would bring Trey in a couple times because I do think if you're going to win this game 25 plus points, like you're not winning this thing in the teens. Seattle's not scoring back-to-back weeks in the teens, right?
No, I mean Lockett. I would expect plays. You know, he hurt his knee. He came back, so I would expect that he plays this week.
How do they cover? Was it last year the DK had an 80-yard catch against them and ran by everybody? Remember that? They were banged. They had a bunch of random guys on the field, but that's a bad matchup guy for them.
And Chris Carson's running the ball really well.
Yeah, I mean,
the other thing is the Niners. When we talk about big plays, I mean, we're talking about creating them on offense. They have one takeaway on defense. Like,
and that guy's on injury reserve right now, right? Is that the pick 6 from Greenlaw?
Yeah. What other?
Yeah. They don't even force balls on the ground. I guess, what's his name, who got a chest contusion / pissing blood in shambles, but he's day-to-day. I saw someone's like, you get a chest contusion, you're pissing blood, you spend 2 nights in the hospital day-to-day, rolled ankle, 3 weeks.
Ankle, it's clear. Like the ankle, you got to, if you can move your contused, bleeding body, you can play. But you got to be able to move it. So
I think Witten and Romo both had like ruptured spleens and played in games.